Hello, I'm Josh.
I'm Josh.
And I'm not Josh, but together we are
Joshing around in air. We're back. We're not. It's not been that long. Why did I
feel
say
like we
it?
should leave that in. After the episode, we'll talk about it being a real long time.
Yeah.
Go, it's been about 5 minutes.
I mean, for us, it's literally been, 40 minutes since that last episode. Yeah.
What are we drinking today, Sam?
Well, if you are an avid
Thank you,
listener
Josh.
of this podcast, and you will remember, I brought some liqueur from Portugal, which I think was cherry or plum flavour. I think cherry
yeah.
flavour.
Cherry.
And this is one that I got at the same shop, and this one is almond flavour. And you can see I have drunk a fair amount of this already. So
We are sipping the dregs of this.
sorry.
That's all right, mate. Oh,
That's a
that
good
clunk.
sound.
That sounds like I've been playing Minecraft, and I've just opened a bottle of, I've just drank a potion. Oh, and that's Sam's microphone falling over because he's knocked it over. Don't worry, mate. It's not an expensive mic. It is.
I am so sorry.
Sorry, it's not mine. Right.
Someone
Salute.
else smelling a lot of marzipan here.
Yeah, I think if it's as simple as
What?
if you like almond, you'll like this.
It smells like a Christmas cake. That's what it smells like.
yeah.
And I flipping love marzipan. Sometimes I take off the icing just to eat the marzipan.
Yeah, I am like that, and therefore, hence.
Yes,
the
hence that bottle's gone. Like Bakewell tart, scoffing that.
Well, so disappointingly, right? I really like Bakewell tart, and I tried mixing it with like a bit of cherry.
Sorry, I've just took a sip of the best drink I've ever drunk.
This is so good.
I am so sorry.
Oh my days. Oh man, I see the light.
You're ruining alcohol for us, Sam.
It's so sweet, isn't it?
Yeah.
It is,
That is why I like it so much, because I'm horrifically addicted to sugar, and this tastes fantastic.
well, look, there we go. Ingredients. Like, I don't speak Portuguese, but I can read this. Ingredient number 1, agua. All right? I'm
Right,
confident
yep,
enough
yep,
on that one.
yep.
Water. Second ingredient, azúcar. I reckon that is going to be sugar.
Yeah. Okay. Okay.
And then it's literally just alcohol and then almond.
What percentage
Nice.
is this?
Oh, what do you reckon? Oh, it's 16%. I thought it was going to be more than that. It's only 16%.
But what's great is it's a high percentage sugar. I mean, this must be over 16% sugar.
Yeah.
We're just basically drinking alcoholic sugar at this point, and it's amazing.
So basically somebody has taken marzipan and gone, hey, that's nice. If I stick that in a blender with a bit of water, that gives me a drink. You know what would make this better, though?
Yeah.
There you go. Cool. Yeah, you need to get another bottle of that. Right, we have a listener question. This is from our good friend Drew. Drew, it's been too long since we've had a question from you, so thank you. And you got to keep sending them in, mate.
Yes, please do.
Hey guys, I've had this burning question for a while now. Why is it that everyone sounds unhappy as a spire? Where is the happiness clone? The one that carries a boombox playing music? And what kind of music would spires listen to? Your 8 figures fan.
I mean, as the Spires player that Drew has met and played against, I wonder how much of this is just him having met me and gone, good, and these Spires are miserable, aren't they? And it's actually just me. I mean, I reckon it doesn't feel like the happiest setup of a society.
No.
But if they were to listen to music, I mean, I feel like it's just teen emo, isn't it, really?
My Chemical Romance,
Yeah.
Paramore, all of that. I've run out of emo bands because I was never in that phase, unfortunately.
Yeah, well, unfortunately, I have been in that phase. I think.
Tell me more, Sam.
Quite sometimes. My favourite band, and it actually is. I own all of their albums. I listen to their stuff regularly. Is Placebo.
Oh, you do love Placebo.
And I really actually do love them. And they have quite a discordant sound to them, but it is just the emotion that you go through as a teen. Placebo just captures what that is like, and the lead singer's voice is just this.
Right, you're really selling it to us there.
I mean, look, here's the thing: if you like Placebo, you'll be like, "Yes, mate, I'm really into that."
Okay,
so
there's a ferromancer somewhere with a boombox over his shoulder, blasting out. Yeah, I really thought the boombox. Yeah, I think the boombox made me think this was that he was just playing some like 90s like Tribe Called Quest, or like, do you know what I mean? Like some Wu-Tang Clan, just like kind of doing a little dance as he walks along, just like, you know what I mean? Just like break dancing with his boombox on his shoulder. When he's just like raising up legions of fleshy drones from the ground.
Yeah, maybe that's the So Solid crew.
I got 21 seconds to make a drone.
Did I tell you I once knocked one of them down the stairs?
Sorry, as in
one of the So Solid crew.
No, did you actually?
Because I came to uni in London, being from up north, and so the opportunity to go to the Ministry of Sound nightclub was like, now I'm in the city, I've got to do it. And somehow managed to like luck out on some prize draw and get VIP their tickets to the VIP suite, which was up this quite narrow flight of stairs. And I was just like looking around like, oh, look, I recognise these DJs. Like, I'm so excited to be here that I wasn't looking where I was going, and knocked into this guy who then like tripped down some steps and was like, oh, sorry, mate. Went up to the top, and the guy that I was there with was like, you know who that was, don't you?
No.
So there you go.
Which one was it?
I don't know. There's so many of them, isn't there?
Yeah.
I don't even. I couldn't name one of them.
That is so funny. I really hope it's Romeo, because if it was him and he just falls down, it's like Romeo done. Which, if you've listened to any Solid Crow, you'll get that reference. But most of you listening to this probably have not listened to Solid Crow, so you do
the
not
Venn
know.
diagram of listeners of joshing around in air.
And so Solid Crew. No, I am that. I am in the middle of that. That I am the one.
Honestly, I am not going to be surprised at all if there are people who've listened to that little conversation and been like, what is So Solid Crow?
Yeah.
It is a different sort of world.
Well, if you want even... Yeah, Josh just pointed to himself. If you want an even more niche reference, I once met a guy who got COVID off of Jammer, who is a grime sort of like... He's kind of a grime MC personality. So if you're into UK grime music, you'll probably know who Jammer is. But like I said, that Venn diagram is only populated by me. So he got COVID off it. Yeah. We walked past him. We just got it at a rave.
That is the weirdest claim to fame. Oh man.
So there you go. Got the COVIDy.
We've written a book.
We have written a book. Someone let us write a book.
Oh man.
Josh, you want to talk about the Fallen Divinity?
How can I follow that? How can I follow that?
If we just collect ourselves for a moment. Josh has made quite a few points that were not about UK music culture and various terrible scenarios that have come out of meeting individuals in said culture. Josh, you've been an Old Dominion player for a couple of years now, and I think you've got a lot to say about the Fallen Divinity. I guess she is a very unique character, unique regiment, probably the most unique in all of Conquest. And yeah, I think I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on our dearest Fallen Divinity.
Yeah, no, I've been playing the Old Dominion. Thinking about it, actually, it's not even quite been a year because I got decimated as Nord's last LGT.
Oh, yeah.
And as my prize, I picked up a box of Old Dominion and said, I'm going to start collecting these instead.
Nice.
Is that really true?
That's legit true. So this year...
Oh my gosh, it feels like forever that I have been losing.
So I'm really expecting like maybe a bit of a surprise from the Parabellum guys who've twice seen me bring Nords. Were a little confused when I picked up a box of Old Dominion at the last LGT, and then this year going to see a whole army. But yeah, I've been playing them for a whole year. I love the Fallen Divinity. It's got to be one of the coolest models in the game.
Yeah.
I like
She is pretty.
the fact that as well, you spend a lot of time and money like painting and buying this model, but then it's like really impactful of your army. Like an army with and without the Fallen Divinity is like a wildly different army. But I don't see many people playing her. It's not in many lists. There was like 5 Old Dominion players at LGT last year and 1 had a Fallen Divinity. And I've not seen her played that much else. And so I was trying to think, look, why is this the case? And so my thinking led me back to the start of Old Dominion as a faction. So the way that I understand Old Dominion have been like designed as a faction is the idea that they start the game slightly weaker, and then your army gets to tier 2 and you get your like Memories of Old as a draw event, and then your army gets a bit stronger, and then you get to tier 3 and you're always inspired, and your army gets some other bonuses and it becomes even stronger still. And so the idea is that your army should be slightly underpowered at tier 1, probably fairly powered and like fairly statted at tier 2, and then slightly overpowered or a little bit too strong for its points at tier 3. And so like, I don't know, I was trying to put some like rough numbers to this in my head. I would guess that a lot of the regiments are between 10 and 20% weaker without getting the Memories of Old as a draw event, basically without getting them automatically without spending an action. Does that kind of seem fair? Like, do you guys kind of agree with that? Got any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, you're just saying how at tier 3 the army was slightly overpowered. And my initial thought was at any tier, Old Dominion are very overpowered. But no, yeah, I that makes total sense. Yeah.
Well, you know, the guy who I lost to at the most recent little tournament that we did, Bad Moon.
Oh, yes.
Was his name Henry? Or
yes, it was Henry, yeah.
Misnamed somebody again, yeah. So I lost in what appeared at first glance to be the final and turned out to be the thing that put me again in like 8th place or something. That was against Old Dominion, and he had absolutely designed a list that was designed to destroy mine. But he commented about why on earth would anyone choose the Fallen Divinity, because basically really what you're doing is you're taking the rest of your army and you're making it harder to make them possible to play with. So I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah, and that is kind of exactly my point, is the Fallen Divinity's 300 points. It's very rare that I've ever seen anyone run her and not put 1 or 2 upgrades on her, with most of the upgrades being about 40 points. She's easily 380, 400 odd points.
Yeah.
But then there's also the cost of your army being weaker. So if we go back to my example of like the army staying at tier 1 being, let's say on the more conservative side, 10% weaker.
Yeah.
Well, if your Fallen Divinity is 400 points, the rest of your army is 1,600 points. 10% of that is 160 points. So really, she's kind of cost you 160 points because your whole army is now weaker, because you will get her to tier 3, not the army to tier 3. And therefore, she's not just cost you 400 points, she's cost you 560 points. Or if you considered that it made the army like 15% weaker, then she's cost you 240 more points, and she's like nearly 650 points, which is a huge number of points. I don't even know what the most expensive regiment in the game is. Maybe like the Wadroon Drum Beast or something.
That's only 300.
That's only 300.
Yeah.
So we're talking twice anything else in the game.
Yeah.
A tier 3 Fallen Divinity is pretty scary and does a lot, but it doesn't feel anywhere near 500-600 points worth of impact. And that's where I think possibly she's not being run much, because although I've not heard anyone kind of articulate it this way, not just her cost as a model, but her cost on your army is very significant for a strong model, but not an insane model. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
So my thought was that actually the way you play, I've noticed there's some regiments which you don't really care about them reaching tier 2. There's some things where you're like, they're good enough at tier 1, I've got no problem. Like Legionnaires, like the +2 thing is nice. I think you want to do that when you can. But you're like, look, they're going to do what they need to do. They're going to get on an objective. And if you're in combat, you can just clash and then use your second action to do your memories roll and get +2 to your command stands for seizing the zone. It's like, great. Do you know what I mean? Even something like Praetorians, like Bastion's good for them to have, makes them more defensive, but they're just taking hits anyway. Like, they're tough to kill. Something like, I don't know, like Cannifors maybe, Flawless Strikes puts in a decent amount of work. So that's something you're like, oh, actually being at tier 2, just getting that as a draw event is quite helpful. I think about Cataphractoid, they probably want that draw event as well, right? But yeah, so do you think there's like a combination where a Fallen Divinity can work when you have units that don't really need to hit that tier 1, tier 2, tier 3 thing, because you can just focus on your Fallen Divinity? Like another one like Bucephaloi, right? Like, who cares about the extra brutal impact when you've only got a few impact hits anyway? They're cleave 3. That's what they're there for, right?
No, I totally agree with you, and that's partly why I am trying to run a Fallen Divinity in my list this year, and I've tried to pick regiments, as you said, where it has the minimal impact.
Yeah.
But then that does make it quite restrictive, the army you can play her with, because you're then... your pool of regiments you can put her with becomes more limited. So, for example, I really like the Carotids. I think they're like fantastic units in the game. Their Memories of Old is +1 barrage and fluid formation. Both are like fantastic things there. But you're never going to pick that as a draw event, because it's pretty much always better to take aim.
Yeah.
And so if you
as an action, you mean?
Yeah. So if you run them with a Fallen Divinity, they are, for the entire game, without that extra barrage and without fluid formation, and are considerably weaker units, and it kind of makes them almost unplayable in a Fallen Divinity list.
Okay. So obviously there's been rumours of rules changes and things like that. I don't know if this has actually been kicked in yet in an FAQ, or if this is like a upcoming thing, but I know that there's talk of the Fallen Divinity, all of her points, when she dies, goes back into the army pool. Is that now implemented, or is that coming? And how do you think that impacts her usefulness in the Old Dominion?
Yeah, I think that's coming in maybe post LGT. I think they announced that rule's going to update. I think that'll be really nice, because it will make it a little bit less punishing if she dies. Yeah. You know, if she was, say, just off tier 3, so you needed 18 tokens for her to get to tier 3 and she was at 15 or 16, you've had a huge investment in her. If she was to die and then you have to start with the army at 0 tokens, it is brutal. It's, you know, you've pretty much lost the game. So I do think doing that is nice. It means it hedges your bets a bit more. Like, if you do lose her, it's still gutting, but it's less game over. Yeah. So I think that's nice. I don't think it's enough to make her fully playable. I think, in my opinion, like if I was to only add one rule that I think would make more people play her, I'd give her the rule that you're starting to see here and there, which is, if she's on an objective, it's hers. Like, it doesn't matter if she's, you know...
Right. Dweg have that, don't they? With the Ironclad and the Ray.
Cold Ray,
if he's the Warlord.
Yes. So if you had a rule like that, like, really the idea is she's super strong late game, you've put all this investment in her, and then you need her to, like, recoup that investment by helping you score late game. I think if you made it like that, so that, right, as soon as she gets tier 3, I can get her there turn 5 or 6, I'm then guaranteed like 5 turns of scoring with her. I've invested a lot into her, but that's like, you know, you're kind of reaping the reward of that by getting 5 turns of guaranteed points. I think that could possibly make a player, but I think it's a massive rule. But as I said earlier, I think she's expensive and it takes quite a lot to bring her on. So I think a rule like that could, like, you might see a lot more people play her because they'd think, okay, it's a bit more worth the investment. I'm guaranteed to get something back on my return. But what about you guys? What changes would you make?
Well, yeah, I think that one is a really good. It's sort of true to the heart of what Old Dominion feel like they should be. So when the change came in, which basically allowed Old Dominion to play as if they were an early game army, and actually then they are that now, and they're also a late game, which makes them extremely difficult to beat. What that turned the Fallen Divinity into is this sort of distraction. Whereas the lists that you used to run before that change, it basically was a question of, if I can kill the Fallen Divinity early enough, I win the game. And so, you know, I remember a couple of times, maybe it was only once, using ranged attacks and getting rid of the Fallen Divinity and me feeling like I've done it now. Whereas if you gave her a rule which was along the lines of, I always win the objective zone, or if the Fallen Divinity's on there, she scores double the points that it's worth, or something like that, where it's like it's overpowering that would make it much more attractive to run. But you would need to temper this Legionnaires are just so fast, and then they're able to last forever, and they find it easier to score zones when they're on them. You know, that is... at the moment, it feels like against average players like us, you're able to run a Fallen Divinity list, and basically you'll survive long enough until the Fallen Divinity is overpowered that now your army's into tier 2, and now you've got an equivalent army to the one that you're facing, and this horrendous monster that is not going to get killed by anything, and is, you know, setting fire to everything that it touches. So,
I think. So this is a point you've made about terrifying, is that a lot of her damage comes from terrifying. Because when at tier 3, she is terrifying 3. That's like resolve cleave 3, which is incredible. So if you go towards a normal regiment and go, right, I'm going to do... Because she's got, even in tier 3, she's still only got, what, like 14 attacks?
12.
So it's not on a crazy amount.
No.
And she's still not inspiring. So
you clash 4.
Although, is she always inspired at tier 3?
No,
great. So you clash 4. So okay, clash 4, pretty reliable, but you know, you make a bad roll. The thing you can rely on is the fact that unless they have a significant amount of evasion, if it's mostly defense characteristics, you're cleaving your way through all of that. Great. Only going to make a couple of defense rolls max. Okay, so you've taken, you know, let's say you do a bad roll and you only get half your hits. 6 hits, great. They take 5 or 6 to damage straight away. Then you can be fairly confident that they're going to take 4 or 5 more to resolve, right? And you just know that you're going to basically double your damage. I think she really struggles when she goes into something like Ashen Dawn, because as we discovered, it actually takes a tier 3 divinity 3 turns to get through an MSU of Ashen Dawn, because her cleave 3 just destroys their defense. You're not saving any of your defense rolls, but you're still resolve 5 for the resolve roll. So I'm saving most of those. So I think for her, because of the fearless rule, right?
Yeah.
So I think because she is this Fallen Divinity, she's this god, this terrifying thing, right? I think it's fair in a lore way of doing it, but also in a gameplay way of doing it, that actually her terrifying still works against fearless people. And you could perhaps do it where a fearless regiment only takes half the amount of terrifying as a normal regiment. So it could be like, right, she's terrifying 3, that goes down to terrifying 1 or 2, but you still really reduce your resolve. Because I feel like, when you've got low attacks, that is something that helps her just to chew through stuff. And when she's tier 3, because you've put all these points in, because you put all this energy and time into it, you know, you're round 6, okay, and she's off on one side of the board, and she really needs to make an impact on that side of the board. She's wasting 3 turns killing something. It's just a nightmare. So you're like, right, this thing should be able to get where it needs to and chew through what it needs to because it's gone to tier 3, and I should be rewarded for playing her as she should be played.
Yeah.
Do you think that's fair?
Yeah, I think it's another one. I think, yeah, that's a good example. I said that. Like, again, if it's going back to my initial thing of like a 500-600 point regiment, the fact that it will take 3 turns because you're going to hit 8 times on an Ashen Dawn, maybe they save 1, maybe they take 1 resolve, you know, 3 turns of doing 8 damage to kill an Ashen Dawn is a long time for a Fallen Divinity where you've invested 6 turns to get her there. And so, you know, don't get me wrong, Ashen Dawn's a particularly tough regiment, but still, the fact that your like whole army based around this one model can get held up for so long feels painful. And so, I've often thought that, maybe lore-wise, she's a demigod. Maybe it strikes fear into everyone, and this is something where, even those who are usually not fearful of anything still have their resolve affected. I think, that could be a change that is beneficial.
Like, I am not well known for getting on the soapbox to say let's try and overpower Old Dominion units. But it feels to me like as long as we can get the balance back in the right direction, force Old Dominion to be that late game army that they're meant to be. I think Fallen Divinity should be this ridiculously overpowered unit. And I remember playing games against you where I've killed your whole army and your Fallen Divinity is alive, and now we're playing the last couple of turns where basically I'm running away from you. And that feels true to how it should be. This is meant to be this terrifying unit that genuinely, if I get close to you, I'm going to die. And we're going to roll some dice because we're going to go through the motions, but we all know how this is going to end, sort of thing. And when I'm sending 28 Aura of Death or whatever it happens to be at you, and you are rolling defense rolls that protect you against 27 of them, and then using Tenacious to take the other one away, like that kind of feels like it's very in keeping with how it ought to feel to be going up against Fallen Divinity. And so at the moment it feels like, she's not quite attractive enough as a unit, and then combined with the strength of the army as a whole, we could change something.
I think what weakens her a lot is the limitations of the Blessed special rule. So what makes her amazing is Blessed, but what also therefore means she's weak to is things that do not trigger Blessed. So shooting, she just dies to shooting. So I remember one game, Josh, I played against you where I got some Imperial Ranger Corps and just shot. Like I did roll well one turn, I will admit, but they actually volley 3, which is quite rare for 100 Kingdoms. In fact, they're the only volley 3 regiment we have. So it's like consistent hits, no EP, but actually that's perfect for them because she has hardened and all this sort of stuff. But she's still so weak to shooting. Like even at tier 3, she takes hits to shooting. And it's like, I think you're now forcing people to go and choose more shooting regiments in a game that is not a shooting game. And so I think it's one of those things where maybe in a balanced way, actually it's probably quite helpful to give her a rule that maybe helps her out with shooting as well. Do you know what I mean? But I think part of me says that's true, but part of me also says actually what makes she is the epitome of the Old Dominion in the sense of she is super strong, but like super slow at the beginning. Because you don't want to run her out into anything. You want her to work her way up. She powers up, great, takes no resolve, and at tier 3 she's not taking damage. And also, like the rest of the Old Dominion army, she's weak to shooting. And in fact, she's probably more weak to shooting than anything else because of that Blessed special rule. And so I think, there's something to think about there. I don't necessarily think even actually you should change that or anything like that, but it is something I've noticed. And actually it makes you play the Divinity in one way, which is hide her in a forest, hide her behind some other stuff, just out of range of any ranged units, and then once she's tier 2, tier 3, rush her in, and you've only got 2 turns of shooting at her before she chews into your shooting regiment. So it's like, yeah, it's great, you can play it that way, but it's like that's the only way you play her. And so I think there's perhaps something to think about.
But I think it's worth just pointing out that, you've very consistently stuck with, I am running Old Dominion with a Fallen Divinity.
Yeah.
Because she is a pretty unit.
Yeah.
And
which really surprised me, because you're a very min-maxy sort of guy.
Yeah, but you've done that, you've taken it to tournaments and won.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was at 1,500 points.
Yeah, okay,
which
well,
is-
that was broken.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, you're right. Josh sucks. It's fine.
Yeah, but like you've done that, you're
Yeah.
taking it to LGT, and that's a sort of space where people are just flat out not going to run that list.
Yeah.
They're going to be choosing something that's a lot more attuned to the matter, and so I think your ability to do exactly what you demonstrated here, where you're sort of taking this unit and going, I want to run it, now how do I make the other 1,600 points work to justify this? I think that is a really nice way to play the game. It's very true to the way that I like to sort of adapt my own philosophy. So thank you for keeping her on the table, because she's probably one of my favourite units in the whole game.
Yeah, she's awesome. Great. Thank you for listening. If you have any questions, please email them in at joshingaroundinaya@gmail.com.
Comments. Let us know your thoughts. What changes would you make to the Fallen Divinity?
Yeah, 100%.
Any thoughts that have come to you as you've been reading our book? Anything?
Cheeky little plug there. And maybe we can do another episode after she gets buffed, hopefully. Who knows?
Maybe.
Who knows? Or maybe I'll just do another episode complaining about Old Dominion. Who knows? Right. Thank you very much for listening, and we will see you next time.
See you
See you
later.
soon.
In a world of miniatures, they reign supreme. 3 kings of the conquest, the Wargamer dream. Josh, oh Josh, and the other not named. Their love for the game never tamed. They roll the dice, they paint the figures bright. Every battle, they'll win the fight. In their hands, the fate of kings, their legend forever it rings. Joshing around in AR, their armies clash, the thrill never tires. With every move, they strategize. In the realm of conquest, they rise. From tabletop to realms unknown, their passion for the game brightly shone. With rulers in hand and maps unfurled, they conquer the world in a wargaming swirl. They live for the thrill, the adrenaline high. Every victory a battle cry. In their hearts the game's allure, their passion forever pure. Joshing around in AR, their armies clash, the thrill never tires. With every move they strategize. In the realm of conquest they rise. From dusk till dawn they fight the fight. Their dedication shining bright. In the world of conquest they're the kings. Their legacy forever sings. Joshing around in AR, their armies scratch the thrill